It is no secret at all that we like Godzilla on this channel, and because of that, it was a very big deal for me and this channel that in 2025, Godzilla turned 70, and with that birthday, Toho has given us a lot to look forward to. So of course, Godzilla X Kong Supernova is on the horizon, right? But it's not the only thing in the movie sphere that we're getting from Godzilla. No, in fact, we're getting a lot of interesting stuff with movies coming from Toho themselves. I want to get into the most interesting one first, though, before I get into the more obvious ones. So earlier this month, I think it was earlier this month, maybe a bit further back than that, there was a Southeast Asia tourist video that came out that featured a Godzilla that looked kind of like the -1 Godzilla, just a little updated, that had a green atomic breath. And it's a striking video, it's very beautiful, but we as Godzilla fans were asking, what does this mean? Because the caption for that video was, Godzilla will have a presence in Southeast Asia. Was there going to be a theme park? Was there going to be some kind of tourist attraction in Southeast Asia? Well, Toho came out and finally revealed that there's going to be a Godzilla cinematic presence in Southeast Asia. Godzilla is going to become a global brand, which I don't know if this is me overestimating Godzilla or the things that I like in general, but I kind of thought Godzilla already had that kind of global appeal, but maybe not on an official level. I don't know. But there's going to be a Chinese Godzilla, a Chinese version Godzilla in movies, and I think that is so interesting because, as of course we all know, while Godzilla is not a dragon necessarily, he does have some semblance of a dragon, and dragons are very prominent in the imagery of Chinese culture. So this Godzilla could look wild in design, and I am so interested to see what's going to come out of that. Apparently, tokusatsu is a huge thing in China. Like, it's bigger than Disney. Apparently, they really love Ultraman down there. Kind of cool, actually. Another thing that's going to be interesting with that is, will that Godzilla, the Southeast Asia Godzilla, will he represent something? Will he be an allegory for something for that part of the world? Because he has been in every iteration where he has existed, except for one, but we won't get into that. What could their allegory be? You know, will he even be an allegory? Will it just be a fun Godzilla that is just turned your brain off? Has no symbolism to it. I don't know, only time will tell, but I am just so excited to know that not only is Godzilla going to be on a global scale phenomenon, but also that we're getting a different version that could look massively different from any other iteration we've got to before, and it's all just so exciting to me. Next up, of course, we got the Godzilla -1 sequel confirmed and on the way, and the cast is returning too. So, I was initially excited to hear about this. Hear me out, okay? I am excited and glad that -1 is getting a sequel, that we're going to be returning to that time period, to that movie's world. But after my initial excitement, I started thinking, and I also am not that excited for it. For me, -1 is a movie that it could not continue, and it would be perfectly fine. Because it's such a powerful movie. It's so fantastic. And sometimes a movie like that, of that scale, of that magnitude, doesn't need a follow-up. Because more often than not, even the sequels are good, sequels tend to dilute the original movie. It doesn't ruin them, but it does make that original less special because there's more of them, and it becomes a special franchise rather than a special singular movie. And for me, -1 was one of those generational movies that, you know, didn't even necessarily need to continue. If it did, that's perfectly fine, and I would take it. But looking at it, -1 was so good that how could a sequel possibly stand up to it? I don't know. again, I'm not one of these people that bemoans a change or bemoans something different. I'm also never one to always say, well, nothing could ever surpass the original. There are sequels that surpass the original all the time. But with this, I feel like this could have gone either way. We could have not gotten a sequel at all, and that would have been perfectly fine. And we could get a sequel and ongoing sequels from then on, and that would be fine too. But because -1 is so up here, it's a giant of a movie, it has me scared for this sequel. The worst it could possibly be is just okay at this point. But even then, that would be worse than if it was just a bad Godzilla movie, because at least a bad Godzilla movie can be cheesy and fun. I don't know. It's torn on it. Excited for it. Not excited for it. But I'm going to be there day one regardless. Also coming out of the gate on the sequel front from Toho Japan is a potential Shin Godzilla sequel. Completely out of nowhere. That one really took me by surprise, as it did all of us, I think. But here's something interesting. I didn't like Shin Godzilla. I did at first, but I've come to sour on it over the years. But despite that, I'm interested in this potential Shin Godzilla sequel. I want to see it happen, because while I didn't care for the movie much, I really like the Godzilla in it. I think his design is sick, and I just think conceptually that Godzilla is so weird and fun. The idea of a body horror, potentially cosmic horror Godzilla is such a horrifying and unsettling idea, and the franchise kind of needed something like that to refreshen it. The Godzilla as a concept in the beginning was a horror idea, and we all saw how that worked out. It worked out phenomenally. It's one of the greatest films of all time. But to take that concept of Godzilla being horror again and putting such a dark twist on it is such a work of art and concept. It just needed to be in a better movie. And I think with a sequel and Hideaki Anno, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, being out could potentially be a good thing, because Anno has some huge ideas, some really out there ideas, and sometimes he knows how to put them in a nice little package and deliver them neatly, and sometimes he's just throwing stuff out there and it's just a big mess. And with Shin Godzilla, it was just thrown out there and in a big mess. He had this, this really high concept, and he really focused on that concept visually, but didn't really do anything with it narratively. So I just hope that with this sequel, they kind of learn from that and do something more. Because the ending of that movie is super unsettling. Godzilla is just frozen, and they have no idea if it could come back to life. And it's scrolling up the tail, and we hear this narrative of, like, we don't know what to expect from this Godzilla. We don't know what the future holds. And there are these spikes coming out that are in the shapes of people. And that is so bone-chilling. Again, I love the idea of this Godzilla, but the movie was just not what it needed to be. So a sequel could really fix a lot of that. And I really hope that they can bring that forward and make it happen, just to see where they go and see what they can finally do with that Godzilla. So that's already a lot to chew on, right? You got Godzilla becoming a global brand with a new version of himself in a new movie and possibly merch and all that jazz. But in addition to all that, you have 2 new movies coming out very soon. One on the Japan side, one on the American side, and potentially another one on the Japan side. But the buck doesn't stop there. We have comic books that are coming out. The IDW Kaisei era Godzilla comic books have began their run with Volume 1 of IDW Godzilla. I did pick up the Godzilla the New Heroes on free comic book day, but I've not picked up this initial first volume yet of the Kaisei era book, which I'm going to soon. What has me a little worried though is friend of the channel, the Omni Viewer, doesn't seem to be too impressed with it, so that has me a little worried, but we'll see when I pick it up. And then what blew me away, I was actually hoping for this at some point with all these crossovers we've been getting. Announced from SDCC, there is going to be a Godzilla cross Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. It's finally happening. This is actually a crossover I wanted to happen. I'm so excited for this. There's going to be a comic book, but there's also going to be a toy line. Don't really know if I'll collect those. These crossover toys, I'm not really into them. I don't really like how they look a lot of the time. I do collect, of course, but these like crossover things, I've never really been into them, at least toy-wise. With that comic, I'm definitely going to be picking that up. It is just so astounding to me that every year that passes in the last 2 to 5 years, every year seems to be the year of Godzilla, more and more so. Here we are on his 70th year, and it seems like we'll be getting more Godzilla than ever before, and it's a great time to be a Godzilla fan. Oh yeah, there's going to be a console game too. I don't know how I feel about that, considering how the last one turned out. I don't know. Could be fine, could be not. We'll find out, but not really looking forward to that as much as I am the other things, especially that TMNT crossover. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk about that a little bit. Let me know what you think about all of this. What do you think about Godzilla being a global brand now? Are you looking forward to the new movies? Are you looking forward to Supernova? What do you think about the Kaisei era comic book that just came out, if you have read it already? What do you think about Godzilla crossing over with the TMNT? Let's talk everything Godzilla and Tokusatsu down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
That's a lot of
Godzilla.